All right, welcome back to Niners Nightly. Always great to have Brian Peacock on with us from Locked On 49ers. He does a great job with Eric Crocker. They talk a lot of Niners over at Locked On 49ers, and he's with us on the UMA guest line to chop it up and talk a little bit about the Niners heading into this big game Sunday against the Rams. Brian, how are you?
Doing well. Excited to see this post-deadline team. No big names coming on Tuesday added to the roster, but they're a 6-win team as it is, and so excited to see what that looks like for the 49ers going forward, and see where they can get a little bump. Maybe there's some ways they can still get incrementally better on this roster, even though they didn't add anybody big at the trade deadline.
It's an interesting topic. I mean, I yelled and screamed about it a little bit on deadline day. And I guess I'm passionate, right? I want to see the Niners win that 6th Lombardi, and they're 6-3, and they got a real shot, and the whole league is mid, and it doesn't really matter if they're the 1 seed, the 6 seed, the 7 seed. Anybody who makes the playoffs, I really think can make it to the Super Bowl. So I was really disappointed, not because I need some sugar high or it's like I'm living, it's like I need this personally for myself. I just look at their defense and these people that are defending the non-activity, like, well, they made a bunch of other moves. Yeah. And since that point, they lost Bosa, Huff, Warner, and basically their chance of going to the Super Bowl on defense is really, largely questionable. Do they have enough? So I was disappointed that they didn't get some help. I wanted to see them get some help. Now, supposedly they wanted Jermaine Johnson. They offered a 4th. They want, Jets wanted a 2nd. Okay, but he wasn't the only guy out there. And now they're in kind of a little bit of a pickle. What was your thought on the Niners' inactivity at the deadline? I mean, they did add Keon White and Cleve Farrell, and they did play well against the Giants. But I think most Niner fans would feel like they needed more than that.
They did play well, and I think if the Keon White trade would have happened a few days later on Tuesday instead of when it happened, I think maybe that would have kind of tamed things for 49ers fans a little bit, because at least they did something. And who knows, the way things went the deadline, there was a lot of overpays. Keon White might have cost a 4th-round pick a week later, right? Because that was just kind of the way things were going. And I think the 49ers were right not to just throw draft picks out there willy-nilly, because the biggest reason they need to make an addition is also the biggest reason why this isn't probably going to be a Super Bowl team, and you shouldn't be going all in on this group without Bosa, without Fred Warner. And I think they do have an opportunity, I mentioned at the start, to get better. When you get Brock back, and Mac has been great in Brock's stead, but Ricky Pearsall and Brandon Aiyuk potentially, this is a team that could be a lot better in December than we saw, and it's already a 6-3 football team. And then just some players on defense. There's a lot of young players. Seeing Upton Stout, I'm sure it's been a whirlwind for him. Playing the nickel is hard in the NFL. Seeing him get a little bit better in the second half of the year. And don't forget last year, Ricky Pearsall, what had he done in his rookie season before this point, before, week 9 of his rookie season? He did a lot of his best work at the very end of the year last year. So maybe we could see some of that. Maybe you still see Nick Martin. I wouldn't mind seeing some fresh legs at running back, and maybe save some of the unsustainable amount of touches that Christian McCaffrey's had this year. There's some games where you could get a little more Brian Robinson in there. Maybe even see the rookie in Jordan James out there as well for the 49ers. Nick Martin, even, who's a good blitzer, maybe could give you a little pass rush as well if Winters continues to be banged up. Seeing the knee under his injury designation. You don't usually see the knee typed twice on the injuries, but that's kind of been the year for the 49ers this year on the injury report. So, some young players on the back end and coming together. I just think there's an opportunity. Keon White could be a nice little addition. He wouldn't be the first defensive lineman to resurrect his career with the 49ers, be a nice fit in the vein of Charles Omenihu and Arden Key. And so I think there's a way that the 49ers can still be better without having made some big swing at the trade deadline.
Mike Silver had an interesting report. He says the reason so many 49er fans and plenty of people in the building are so frustrated the team didn't make any trades yesterday or at the deadline isn't because they're in search of some knee-jerk sugar high. It's because the injury-plagued defense as currently constituted isn't good enough. What do you think Sunday's going to look like? Stafford rolls in. They got a great offense. Just threw for 4 touchdowns last week. He's got Devontae. He's got Puka. I mean, they got weapons. They got speed. Kyron Williams. How do you see Niners Rams?
You got to try to make the quarterback uncomfortable. That's always important. And by the way, Cleveland Farrell, did he look like he was a little lighter, a little more
I thought
spry?
he looked great.
I was surprised. He looked really good, and it was maybe moving around quicker, maybe even lighter. I don't know what weight he's at right now, but he looked lighter than he did with the Raiders in his first stint with the 49ers. So that was definitely a positive. So can he keep that momentum going here in his second week with the 49ers this year? It's one thing I think the 49ers defense can do pretty well still is stop the run. Have loved seeing Tatum Bethune out there running around. He can thump people. And D Winters obviously has tons of range on the back end, and getting Malik Mustafa, who's really kind of still going through his preseason after coming back from injury. So I think he'll start to get into preseason form as well. And, with White and Farrell and some of the big guys they have in the middle up front, I think they're a team that can still stop the run, which is going to be really important. And it's been the best thing that we've seen from this group from last year to this year with the addition of bringing back Robert Saleh and how good they've been against the run versus what they were doing last year. You got to get the Rams in those third and longs, make those things difficult, and then make however you have to do it, sim pressures and overload one side and maybe bring some blitzes and all the things we've seen from Robert Saleh this year. You got to do all those things to try to make Stafford uncomfortable. And Stafford is will get a little wild hair occasionally and throw the ball to the other team. And you got to catch those if he does that. And when you look back at that Week 5 game, Thursday nighter against the Rams, after, losing Nick Bosa, and you thought, man, this is going to be too much for the 49ers. And they went out and won that game on a short week on the road on Thursday night, which is tough to do, but they needed some help. They needed some really big plays. And so I think they're definitely going to need that against the Rams, who have really been playing some good football recently.
Yeah, that game was so interesting earlier this year because the Rams ran for 5 yards a carry, but only ran it 16 times. The 49ers, and I mentioned this to Shanahan this week, that, they stayed with the run. I mean, they ran 33 times, but they only averaged 2.2 yards per carry, but they stuck with it. And, Shanahan says this team is particularly difficult to run against. I would imagine. What do you think we're going to see in this matchup? Do you think the 49ers will have more success running it than they did the first matchup?
Yeah, and I think Kittle being back is definitely helpful, and they've found a little bit more success, albeit I think it's more because of the defenses of the Giants and the Falcons that the 49ers were able to run the ball, particularly those 2 weeks, a little bit better. It's going to be a tough ask, but, Kyle Shanahan wants to stay in front of the sticks, and he wants to have his entire playbook at his disposal. And so keeping the game close in that regard, I think, is really important against anybody, but especially against the Rams. But they're most susceptible on the back end. So if you can get to some of those third downs where you still have the threat of run, but you can get some guys loose on the back end and make some plays, and maybe see a little more of Watkins, a little more of that speed, because I think that is something that's been missing from the 49ers offense this year is an element of speed. And I think that's going to be important to get some guys open and create some big plays in the pass game, as well as, there's going to be a heavy dose of Christian McCaffrey in the run game every week.
Would you where are you on Kyle Shanahan for Coach of the Year? I mean, I saw a whole breakdown. Colin Cowherd did. He's like, my Coach of the Year is Kyle Shanahan, and his point is like he's winning with peanut brittle, baling wire, and duct tape. He says they have no healthy players, and they're 6-3 with their backup quarterback. Their third down offense, despite a bad offensive line, is top 3 in the league. He said basically the offense is CMC and cross your fingers. He said it's one of the greatest coaching jobs you'll ever see. What do you think? Is this the year? Shanahan's had so much success, but he's never up there for Coach of the Year. It's almost like, you have to really be thought to be bad and then overachieve to get this award. Is he the reason that they're 6-3?
Yeah, I would put a lot on Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh. I think the Robert Saleh addition was massive for this team. And you're actually seeing the special teams start to come around a little bit. The coverage unit could be a little bit better, but all of a sudden you got a kicker that's making a whole lot of kicks for you. And the defense and special teams being better is a massive part of it. But, it all comes down to the head guy and the head coach. And with what the 49ers are dealing with all the injuries, I think he should be the front runner for Coach of the Year to have this team at 6-3 right now. And can they win 4 more games, win 10 games, get into the playoffs? I mean, I think they can. And I think that's Coach of the Year type stuff right there. And I know, Shane Steichen has the best record in the league right now with the Colts, and they went all in at the deadline and made a big move. And so whichever team wins the most games can usually have a big say in who's in, if they're going to be the coach of the year. I think Todd Bowles, there's a number of coaches that I think you can make the argument for, but I don't see how anybody's got a better argument for coach of the year than Kyle Shanahan with what he's done with this unit this year.
All right, a little break from the content to tell you about our friends over at Sleeper. This 49er football season is presented on the Krug Show by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chat, season-long leagues, and of course, Sleeper picks for daily fantasy. Use promo code Larry, Larry, and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Links in the description. Terms and conditions do apply. I mean, the fact that he's getting this much out of Mac Jones is incredible. What do you make of Mac Jones, by the way? I mean, do you believe that what we're seeing is real and that Mac Jones is this player? I mean, what we're seeing is a 27-year-old pocket passer who just consistently puts the ball on the receiver. I mean, this guy is so freaking accurate. It's uncanny. He can process what he sees. You can tell he's football smart. The accuracy is very consistent. He can throw from different arm angles. And then the part I wasn't banking on is he seems like he's kind of a leader. I mean, he's not, it's Brock's team and it's Brock's locker room and the whole deal. And yet he's walked in and he's his own personality. And he's shown an ability to not just play well, but to lead. I mean, to me, that's the biggest positive out of the surprise out of the first half of the year, is that you got two quarterbacks now in their mid-20s that look like they could lead your team into the future if need be.
I mean, and Mac Jones is making so much money for himself, probably from another football team, and we'll have a lot of those conversations, I'm sure, in the offseason, whether or not Mac Jones gets traded, because it is clearly Brock Purdy's team. But it's been phenomenal. I've been super impressed with Mac Jones. He's been accurate in a lot of the ways that Brock Purdy and even Jimmy Garoppolo were good for Kyle Shanahan, knowing where the ball is going to go, being accurate, getting the ball out with timing and some anticipation. And, there'll be an occasional weird play here and there. And he's had a couple of arm punts where he'll try to throw a deep ball and he doesn't quite have it in him. But he does throw a pretty ball as well, and some layered throws. And I think you mentioned it the most. It's not necessarily a rah-rah thing, but it's his toughness. I didn't know he had that kind of attitude about him. He's got, again, it says knee on the injury report for him. And he's running around making plays and getting hit and staying in the game and playing through pain, no doubt. And he's been really impressive. I've been so impressed with Mac Jones, and I'm not super surprised that he's been a nice fit for Kyle Shanahan, but he's been better than expected. And his toughness and his ability to lead the 49ers to some of these wins has been awesome. And he knows where to go with the football. And I think one of the big things that stands out to me with Kyle Shanahan and his quarterbacks, and it was something that Brock Purdy said his first year, his rookie year, and people, I think it was after the game, and I don't remember who it was and which exact week it was, but a reporter was like, "Brock, this is crazy what you're doing right now. How is this happening?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know. I just do what Coach Shanahan tells me to do. It's not that big of a deal." And so I think that was music to Kyle Shanahan's ears, and I think Mac Jones is doing a lot of that as well.
Just keep doing it. He looks fantastic. Kyle said this week he's pretty confident that Brandon Aiyuk will play this year. I mean, talk about a far cry from some of the reports that he'll be back for week one. He may not play at all this year. I mean, talk about a dramatic pivot from different reports. I was saying all spring and all summer, expect him around Thanksgiving. I don't think he's going to be here by Thanksgiving. I think it's going to be a December proposition if we see him at all. And a lot of people are speculating that they think he'll be traded in the offseason and that he's, really in the twilight of his stay here. What's your read on Aiyuk? I mean, you're never going to get the true story here. It just seems like there's some regret from the organization side on the contract, but there's no quotes that we can attach to that. It's more just my sense of it from being around the team a little bit. And maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong before, I think once or twice. What do you think, Bri? How do you feel about Aiyuk? Do you think we're going to see him this year? Do you not think we're going to see him this year? Do you think he's going to be dealt in the offseason? Make sense of Aiyuk for us.
I do think we're going to see him this year, and hopefully he's getting close. He's been moving around pretty well for a little while now, and I know it was a devastating injury, and he might not be the same looking guy at any point this year, but a nice offseason will be good for him, I'm sure. And I can't pretend to know what's going on in his heart. It's been a little bit weird with the wide receivers, and I think it's just the way that those guys are wired in that position because the Juwan Jennings stuff, the Aiyuk stuff that's been going on for over a year. Even with Debo, it seemed a little weird. And he's like, yeah, me and Kyle are tight and we're best friends, but I also want to get out of here and go somewhere else. So like, I don't know what to think with wide receivers. You're looking at what's going on with AJ Brown. He's already been traded once and it seems weird with him in Philadelphia. So I think it's just a wide receiver thing too. But I think there's going to be conversations about that as well. There's going to be a lot of Mac Jones talk in the offseason. There's going to be a lot of Brandon Aiyuk talk in the offseason. And if he's going to go anywhere, though, he has to prove that he's healthy and ready to play this year before you can even start having those conversations, I think. And I think we are going to see Brandon Aiyuk, and I think it'll be really welcomed for the 49ers offense. I mean, imagine what the 49ers are doing right now. Imagine with Brandon Aiyuk and Ricky Pearsall out there and healthy in December. I mean, wouldn't that be something?
It absolutely would be. What do you think of the job Hennessy's doing in for Brendel? It's been 3 games. Matt Hennessy is not allowed a sack. He's only allowed 3 pressures. He's only allowed 1 quarterback hit. His pass blocking efficiency number was 98.3. I think that's pretty good. What do you think of Hennessy in for Brendel? I've heard it both ways. I've heard some people say he looks great. Other people are like, no, they need Brendel.
Yeah, and you haven't heard his number called, which I think is usually a good thing for offensive linemen. He hasn't had any of those big, highlight losses where you get pushed all the way back into your quarterback and just look terrible. I don't think he's been perfect by any means, but I don't think Jake Brendel had been perfect either before him. So I think more of the same. And he's been solid, and it's nice to have a veteran backup that is a nice fit for Kyle Shanahan's offense to be able to come in and plug in at center. And I think that's why the 49ers lost Drew Moss, is because they needed to keep Nick Sakill around to, just to have another center that's a veteran, because Kyle Shanahan asked a lot of his centers and making calls and stuff like that. So, which, was bummered to see someone like Drew Moss go. And, maybe the 49ers should do that to somebody else. I saw a list of names that you put out there about some defensive linemen that are on some other rosters around the NFL. Maybe it's time for the 49ers to do some poaching.
Well, I mean, their 5-man edge rotation right now is Bryce Huff, Keon White, Cleve Farrell, Sam O, and Robert Beal. Now, Beal is the talented guy who's young, they have not been able to get it out of him. At practice, they are just in his ear, just, Rob, come on, Rob, come on, Rob, come on, Rob. I mean, Chris is begging, pleading. Chris's assistants, they're begging, they're pleading. I mean, they know that Beal is 6'4", 260, 4.4 speed, and hasn't done anything from scrimmage. And they need to get it out of him, and they need it right now. So, I mean, they're trying, and he's coming off a game where I think he had his best game. So maybe they could get it out of him. If they could, wow, that would be something. Let me ask you this. Give me a second half breakout candidate. I'll give you a list of players. You give me a second half breakout candidate out of these guys that I think all have talent and a lot of talent, but didn't have a bust out in the first half. Here's the list. Tell me which guy you like. Jordan Watkins, Demarcus Robinson, Jordan James, Keon White, Darrell Luter Jr., C.J. West, Marquise Siegel, Robert Beal, William Bradley King, Sebastian Valdez, Sincere McCormick, Tatum Bethune. You could argue Bethune's had his breakout already, but whatever. We'll take Bethune off the list because he's already kind of busted out. It's too easy of a call. Oh, Bethune, he had 16 tackles last week. Give me a name on that list that you're thinking, you know what, they could bust out in the second half, and I'm all here for it.
Yeah, and the opportunity on the defensive line is, I think, the first place I would automatically go. The fact that Curtis Robinson came in the game for D Winters when he got hurt last week, and not
Nick Martin,
the rookie, it was kind of telling there that they might think Martin's a little ways away. And Siegel has kind of fallen to the wayside a little bit in the rotation, even though he was heavily involved early. So I'd like to see him maybe back in there, because I do think the future is probably Siegel and Mustafa at safety. But I'm going to go to the defensive line. and that tandem of rookies that the 49ers drafted. And, I think you need to see more consistency from Alfred Collins and hope you get a little bit more push as a pass rusher. But, when he wins, it's a lot like Javon Kinlaw was, kind of an oversized guy, but they have all this power and length. And when they win, it looks awesome, but consistency isn't there and pad level isn't always on point. And then CJ West, who's somebody who's just got built in pad level. And I think by the end of the year, it'd be really cool to see Alfred Collins and CJ West next to each other in the middle of that defense and be like, yeah, we are the future starters of this defensive line going forward. And you don't have to worry about drafting some high defensive tackle because we're going to be, we're the guys, we're going to be it. And at least, really heavily involved and we're already seeing a lot more snaps for Alfred Collins there. So that's a fun one. And then Keon White, because Keon White has all the physical ability in the world.
He does.
He's huge. He's athletic. And the way the 49ers are going to use him, I think if things go really well for the 49ers, that would probably be the breakout guy that really did something this year with his ability to set the edge and size and then kind of rush from the interior.
Yeah, I think he's a good scheme fit here. Last one on your way out the door. George Seifert, Mike Holmgren, Mike Shanahan. 3 ex-Niner coaches are among 9 semifinalists for the coaching category for the Hall of Fame class of 2026. Which of those 3 guys, in your opinion, has the best case for the Hall of Fame? Seifert, Holmgren, Shanahan.
Oh, man. Do they all have 2 Super Bowls?
They all have 2 rings. Yep.
Yeah, man. So that's not the
decider. I mean, obviously, Holmgren's got and Seifert have many rings.
Well, yeah, as a head coach, yeah,
right, yeah.
And Shanahan has 3 at least, right, and 2 as the head guy,
right.
So,
right. You got one with the Niners in the last one, 1995.
I want to say Seifert, just because that was the guy in the Bill Walsh era. That was the football I first learned about, was the Bill Walsh handed it off to. But man, how fully formed was that for Seifert? And I think that's being held against him, maybe unfairly, because it's like, hey, here's a Super Bowl team, George, take it over. And he's like, cool, I won't drive it off the road, and we're gonna go win another one. And then the fact that he got another one later was really important. But I'd probably say Holmgren's got the best shot of those guys.
I kind of think so too.
I
think they all should have a good shot. They all belong. Nobody would be like, what? If any of those guys made it, but I think Holmgren probably I'd give the slight edge to as well. Brian, awesome stuff, man. Tell people where they can catch you on Locked On or when.
Yeah, Locked On 49ers Daily. Me and my guy, Eric Crocker, talking about the San Francisco 49ers and the all-new Locked On NFL 6-pack. It's a 6-pack of takes every single day about the entire NFL with myself and former NFL scout Matt Williamson, former ESPN guy. I'm sure you've read him before. And we break down the entire NFL on the Locked On Podcast Network.
Awesome, man. Brian Peacock does a great job, guys, on Locked On with Eric Crocker. Check him out. Brian, thanks again for your time.
Anytime, Larry. Always fun.
We got more straight ahead. It's Niners Nightly on the Sports Leader.